Hello everybody and a very warm welcome back to the latest episode of Hidden Jewels of Soul and Disco. I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. In this week's episode, I want to point out a group which is very often totally overlooked, and they did some tremendously great work. Also, you can get their whole catalog, 3 LPs, for under $50. And what you get for that, well, we'll discuss this today. Therefore, this week we're featuring The Choice 4. Which 70s evergreen mega hit from a solo artist were first recorded by The Choice 4? Well, we'll discuss this after some needle drops. The Choice 4 was founded in 1974 in Washington, D.C. and their exclusive producer was all the time Van McCoy. Well, yes, the Van McCoy, the hustle Van McCoy, the 70s hit machine Van McCoy. Before they got with Van McCoy, and Van McCoy made sure that they got a deal with a major label, they were also auditioning for Philadelphia International, but that didn't really work out well. Also in that year, in 1974, they released their first album. Here it is, The Finger Pointers. And I instantly fell in love with this album when I was browsing through a record store and I saw it in a bin. It was €10, $10, near mint condition, cover and record. I fell in love with the artwork. That was the first thing I saw, and then I fell in love with the music. The first single from that album, which didn't chart actually, the first single was The Finger Pointers. And look at that cover art. I totally love the cover art. The single was an up-tempo song, and it kind of leads the direction, was the first introduction to the Finger Pointers. What you also find on this album is a song which became the second single, and that was You Are So Right For Me. I wish that RCA would have done it differently, to introduce the world to the Finger Pointers with the single You Are So Right For Me, and doing the second single, the up-tempo song, The Finger Pointers, which was on the A side. You had part 1 of The Finger Pointers, and the last song on side B was The Finger Pointers part 2. It was a good up-tempo song, but You Are So Right For Me is really the standout song on this album. Like I said, it didn't chart. They had success on the Hot Soul chart, so they continued. They continued and got a second album in 1975, and I have a dear connection to this album because when I was getting into soul music 2 decades ago, I was browsing through a record store, and they had this particular album. So one of my first memories was seeing this record, this artwork, and it stayed in my mind. And for me personally, it's also my favorite album. All of their albums are great. It was once again produced by Van McCoy. There were also some, most of the songs were written, at least co-written by Van McCoy. So you can be sure you have a top-notch production up here with this album. On this album, there are 2 songs which I want to point out to you. And these 2 songs were When You Are Young and In Love. You know that song? You know that title. That was in 1964 a big hit for Ruby and the Romantics. So this also was considered as a single when being done in 1975 by the Finger Pointers. What happened around that same time was that Ralph Carter from The Good Times released a disco version with When You're Young and in Love. And that song really rocked the charts. So the momentum of their version, which was way more soul, was gone. You know what? Let's compare these versions. Let's do that.
That night seems to shine twice as bright. When you're young and in love, all you gotta do is trust that you.
To me, the Finger Pointers version totally wins, but that's just my humble opinion. Also included on this album is a song which is called When You're a Walk Away from Love. Does that sound familiar to you? Walk Away from Love? Yes. They first sung Walk Away from Love before David Ruffin did it, and David Ruffin had one of his last big hits with Walk Away from Love. Honestly, yes, it's known that David couldn't hit a high note in the song, which the Finger Pointers were able to do. But to me, honestly, David's version is the one I first heard. It's the one I love. So, yeah, the version of David kind of wins for me. But honestly, they aren't far behind. They did a fantastic job on this album as well. So, the Finger Pointers, their second album. I'm very new to this album, like I said, the cover art. I do remember that record from very early on. Their last album came out in 1976 and it was called On the Top of Clear. And here it is. And look at these guys. They were fit, I tell you that. They're a stunning looking young men. Who are these guys? Well, the group were consistent of Charles Blackmon, Bobby Hamilton, Pete Marshall, and Ted Maduro. There is actually no picture available where you see who is who. Otherwise, I would have loved to introduce you these guys on the picture. But yeah, On Top of Clear with a hype sticker, and the hit single of that song, of that album, was Come Down to Earth. And it was actually released when the group kind of already broke up. So it was a huge disco 12-inch famous club hit, but yeah, they broke up at that time because none of their albums could really chart. Pete Marshall worked with Fan McCoy on Lonely Dancer. He was backing singer on Aretha Franklin's La Diva album. He worked backing vocals on Stuff and also on the Reddings albums. The other guys, plus Pete, later on were members in various Temptation reviews. I had no idea how many Temptation reviews were out there, but yeah, let's talk about a few. So let's begin with Ted and Pete. They sang for the Damon Harris Temptation review. Pete, after that, continued to sing for the Glenn Leonard's Temptation review. Bobby was doing gospel music in church most of the time, and after that, Ted continued to sing at Nate Evans' Temptation review. So yeah, quite a few reviews out there. Pete, I mentioned him earlier, singing backing vocals for Aretha Franklin, Stuff, the Reddings. He passed away in 2017. The other guys, I think they are still around. I think that Ted is the only one who's still doing music, who's still active in the scene, but also there are hardly any information about these guys available. as I'm not sure which album is my favorite one. Like I said, I have a special soft spot for the second one, but honestly, I think all of them are great. So for, you know what, I would love, you've heard some needle drops, some snippets from the second album. I would say let's hear also some tracks from the first album, and from the first album I choose You Are So Right For Me, and from the last album let's have a listen to the hit record Come Down to Earth, so that you get a better impression. Let's have a listen. Also, as mentioned earlier, if you want to have all 3 albums, it will be less than $50. Of course, depending where you are living. If you're living in the United States, it's way easier than living in Europe, but still, if you're living in Europe, you can get these albums between 10, 15 euros or dollar in almost pristine condition. So I've got this one, it was still in shrink, for 10 euros, and the other ones also around 12 to 15 euros. So then you have the whole catalog. They were all produced, co-written by McCoy. You have tremendously great arrangements, fantastic vocals from these guys. So for me, it's an absolutely no-brainer. Go and get all these 3. You have a fantastic selection. So once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a great time, and I see you next time. Stay safe, stay healthy, listen to good music, maybe the choice 4. Till next time, bye.